Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. We begin in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Over the last few sessions and the last few weeks, it's been Ramadan, and we were talking about Ramadan transformation. And the question that has been coming up over and over and over again is, what now? What do we do beyond Ramadan transformation? And this was a topic suggested by one of our students here. And
all guests are now muted.
This is a topic suggested by one of our students, and so we're going to address it right now. So what do we do now? There's all this stuff that's come up during Ramadan. We've gone through all of these lessons. We've talked about all this stuff. Like, is my life meant to be different now? Is it meant to look different? What's happening? Yeah, I had a couple of great insights, but what's going on from this point forward? And so the first thing to point out is that the aim of Ramadan, as we know in the Quran, it says, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you may attain taqwa, you may become more conscious. Now, did we become more conscious or not? Well, there's a couple of telltale signs. One telltale sign is more taqwa, more consciousness, equals a deeper feeling of love and forgiveness. A deeper feeling of love and forgiveness. Both a deep feeling of love and forgiveness that you feel from Allah when you're praying, a deeper feeling of love and forgiveness that you feel for yourself. Remember, we had the whole session on forgiveness where we said, if you want to know how much Allah is forgiving you, just ask how much you're willing to forgive yourself. You know? So an increase in taqwa, one telltale sign might be an increase in a feeling and a sense of love and forgiveness. Now, some people say to me, well, I felt that during Ramadan. You know, I was praying, I felt this amazing connection with Allah. Where's it gone? You know? And you might say, well, Ramadan went, and so now the feeling's gone. As though the feeling came from Ramadan. Now, there's two important things here. Firstly, the feeling didn't come from Ramadan. The feeling came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it came to you via the power of thought. You know what that means? It means it's still available to you. As long as Allah is still close, is still around, as long as Allah is around, as long as Allah is close to you, the feeling of deep love and forgiveness and connection that you felt during Salah, during the fasting, at those really profound moments that happen during Ramadan, they're always available. You know, and I said right just before Ramadan ended, I said, you know, some people are feeling sad because Ramadan's about to end. And the only reason we're really feeling sad isn't because Ramadan is going to end. It's because we are going to stop reading the Quran. We are going to stop doing Salah. We are going to stop fasting. And as soon as we stop doing those things, it's like Allah isn't turning away from us. We're turning away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you want the Ramadan feeling all year round, you can have it. The increase in taqwa you had during Ramadan will last all year round, can last all year round. Just turn to Allah. It's there. It's inside of you. The feeling came from inside of you. That's where the change happens. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to understand that there was a deep transformational feeling. How shall I say this? There was information in those feelings. You know, the deep, powerful connection with Allah, being on the verge of tears or even crying out of joy, or because you know that Allah's with you, that deep feeling that came, that carried information in it. Every time a feeling like that comes, not only does it carry information with it, but that from that moment forward, your life is going to be different. It's not, you see, we think that it's the moment that you had the feeling where all the action was happening, but it's not. As you were experiencing that deep, deep feeling and connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as you were experiencing it and you had that deep feeling, information was coming to you. You had insight. And you know you had insight if you had that deep feeling of connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So why is that important? Well, the information that came was the kind of information that reorders all of your thoughts, and it reorders your whole perspective on life. Someone who has never broke down in tears in front of Allah and someone who has, their lives are going to be different for the rest of their lives. One of them knows Allah is near and the other one doesn't, because they've never experienced it, right? There was a time where I'd never cried in Salah. And there was a time where I had never experienced the kind of thing I actually experienced one night during this Ramadan. So this Ramadan, there was one night, I was in the masjid, they asked me to lead a prayer, and the power in that salah during that night of Ramadan freaked me out. It was like my whole body was shaking. I was on the verge of tears all the way through, and I think everyone was. That deep feeling went away, but the transformation that occurred inside of me and inside of anyone else there who happened to be paying attention will never go away. Even though we may not even find labels to describe it. I know I'm changed. So that's what I mean when I say Ramadan transformation. Now, by the way, those deeper feelings are usually not available to you if you're wondering what you're going to have for breakfast. If you're wondering what you're going to have for sehri during the salah. They're not available to you if you're wondering, oh my gosh, I have these bills to pay. They're not available to you if you're wondering, oh my gosh, I can't wait until this fast is over. If your mind gets caught into the outside in, those feelings aren't available to you and the transformation isn't available to you. That's why I spent the whole month talking about the inside out paradigm and the implications of the inside out paradigm. So another implication is when you have an insight like that, when you had that deep feeling and it came with an insight, which might have been different this year to previous years, the other thing that happens is that insight, as it increases your taqwa, you might notice a telltale sign that you've had an increase in taqwa is a deeper love for humanity. You forgive people that otherwise you wouldn't have forgiven. You feel love for people that otherwise you wouldn't have felt. I felt a much deeper connection to my parents than I've ever felt before this Ramadan. Right? And just the feeling of such a blessing to have them around and in my life. Like I've never really felt that before, and if I had, I didn't pay attention to it. So that an increase in love for humanity is another telltale sign that, and it's not that you'll feel it 24/7. You just need to feel it once. It lasts 24/7 from then onwards. That's because you had an insight, right? So you have the deep feeling of connection with Allah that carries the information and that causes the transformation. The final thing I want to say is that there is a difference between the outside-in paradigm, and really the outside-in illusion, and the inside-out paradigm. So from the inside out, there's a reason I spent the whole month talking about it. And there's a reason out of all of the things I could have taught you about the Quran and Sunnah, I decided to focus on the inside-out paradigm instead. Because you're going to read the Quran anyway. You're going to be reading the life of the Prophet ﷺ anyway. But what you're not going to get is the inside-out paradigm from anywhere else. So some of the implications of the inside-out paradigm were a deeper love for yourself and for humanity. A deeper sense of forgiveness for yourself and for humanity. Humility, now you see it, now you don't. Shukr, what a blessing to be alive, and what a blessing to know that all of the feelings I experience come from inside of me. Sabr, what a blessing to know that nothing outside of me can cause my feelings, and so I can handle anything. What a blessing to know that it is possible to master my nafs, because now I know what causes nafs thought. Now I know that all nafs thought just comes from believing in an illusion that the outside world can cause feelings. This list goes on and on and on, and there may even be an infinite number of things on this list, which are implications. Now, here's why we call it implications. These things are implications because you don't have to do anything to be more loving. You don't have to do anything to be more forgiving. You don't have to do anything to be more humble or to have more shukr or to have more sabr. This isn't a doing thing. This isn't an application paradigm like you learn something from me and then you have to go and try and implement it. That's not how this works. The way this works is you see the inside out paradigm and you realize that you can't help. When you're looking in the right direction, you can't help but feel these things more and more and more deeply. When you pretend that feelings come from outside of thought, from something other than thought, then you're more likely to be angry because every time you see an injustice, you'll feel angry because you think the injustice is causing the anger. You're more likely to be sad because every time something bad happens, you're more likely to be sad because because you think the bad things happening cause sadness. You're more likely to hate people because there are people doing silly things all over the world. So you're going to think that that's what's causing your hate. You're more likely to be envious because you think that other people having things that you don't have causes your negative feelings. And ultimately, you have no mastery over your nafs. The outside-in paradigm causes all diseases of the heart, causes all discomforts of the mind. And before Ramadan transformation, you didn't even know it existed. You certainly didn't realize the relevance of it. How could you have before I pointed it out? Right? And there's people who think that they've heard this stuff before. they're not really listening. If you think you've heard this before, unless you randomly have coincidentally studied with a couple of my teachers, which is highly unlikely. We're talking about a handful of people in the world. Unless that's happened, you haven't heard this before. You've heard stuff that sounds like this, but you haven't heard this before. No one else in the world, apart from people who get the inside-out paradigm, talk about how all feeling just comes from thought. And if you're having any kind of problem in life, the only thing you're not seeing is that feeling comes from thought. Even cognitive behavioral therapists don't see this. Even positive psychologists don't go all the way on this. Even Tony Robbins doesn't talk about this. It sounds like they do because they are inside out with some of the things they say, but they don't realize the criteria. The furqan is knowing where feelings come from. So beyond Ramadan transformation, what do you need to do beyond Ramadan? The answer is nothing. The answer is literally nothing. There's nothing more for you to do. Just enjoy the bliss of knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always with you, and that feeling always and only comes from thought. And those two facts are always going to be true. And the deeper you see one of those things, the deeper you'll see the other. Right? The moment you create a separation between feeling and thought is the moment you create a separation between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. May Allah give you all of the benefits of this Ramadan and let you live to see the next one. And may we all get the maximum benefit from the Quran and the maximum benefit from all of the beautiful things that we're taught in Islam through teaching us by, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with all of those benefits by helping us to see the inside out paradigm.